Cheers, friends. Thank you today for joining me on Owning Her Seat. Today, I'm here with Skye Estroff, and we're going to discuss her journey through social media, her new show, and more importantly, how she owns her seat. Thank you so much for joining me today, Skye.
Thank you for having me. This is already just a great experience. I'm so happy.
So, Skye, introduce yourself. Tell us who you are, what you do.
Okay, loaded question. You're already hitting me with that Barbara Walters situation. But so my name's Skye, and I own Skye Estroff LLC, my really creative business name. But it's because everything I do is just coming back to what I want to do, and that owning my own business gives me the freedom to do what I want to do. So I own a social media and marketing company, and I help clients. A lot of them are in the food space, but there are some in different kinds of work that I'm also interested in. And I just kind of help do their marketing strategy, do their social media, and make them look great. So that's my day-to-day. And then I also am part owner of Foodie Road Trip LLC as well, which is my show.
I love it. Okay, so we are talking from you as an entrepreneur now.
Yes.
Where did you start? I know you started at Atlanta Eats, and then from Atlanta Eats, you went to the Atlanta Food Festival.
Yes.
And so you've had a journey. Tell us how your journey has started from working from someone to now owning your own business.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of crazy, like looking back over the years, how my mindset changes with each job
Really?
too. Yeah. Because it's like when you first are going out into the workforce, it's like, how are you going to get a job? Like, it's just this fear that you're not going to be employed and you're not going to have something. So like, you kind of have to work for somebody when you're first working. I mean,
sure.
I think so. Some people are geniuses and just start out working for themselves. But for me, it made sense to work for somebody else at first. And working at Atlanta Eats, a place that was a food TV show in Atlanta, that was exactly what I was looking to do. Like my dream job, if there was an application for Food Network host and to take over one of their star spots, then I would be there. But I knew that there were steps I had to take to get there. So Atlanta Eats was like that awesome experience for that. And then while I was there, I was really just like wearing a lot of different hats. And one of them was sales and account exec work. And like, I didn't love that part as much. Yeah. And I liked social media a lot more. And I was seeing a lot of success doing that. So then it just made sense. Like the natural progression was to go to Taste of Atlanta, which was the largest food festival in Atlanta, and take over their social and just get to focus on social and marketing, and then to be like the face of their company. So I could do all of my like hosting and TV stuff that I wanted to do.
Which I love. So what has being an entrepreneur taught you that you feel like you didn't have working at those jobs?
Oh my goodness, Erica. Okay, how many hours do you have for this? Let's start with invoicing. No, there are so many things that I've learned from it, but I think the main thing is just how to motivate myself and how to stay confident and be there for myself, like in a way that like a boss doesn't have to validate me, or coworkers or a client. Like I just have to steadily put in the work, and I know that I'm going to be okay. And so I kind of just have to remind myself of that. That's my mindset is definitely the largest lesson. And then there are like all the detail things of like contracts and lawyer things and invoicing and just staying organized and finding a new organizational flow with like clients, and how do I keep my life afloat and find some semblance of balance.
I love that. For sure. So literally, what made you decide to go off on your own?
Well, I wasn't sure that was even what I was going to do.
Really?
It just like kind of came to me. What I knew was that I was at Taste of Atlanta.
Yep.
I was feeling the growing pains. Like I was ready to spread my wings, but I didn't know where and I didn't know what. And I knew that a lot of people were coming up to me and asking if they could like have me for full-time. And I just couldn't commit to a full-time position anywhere else. And I knew that wasn't something in my plans. So I started meeting with all the places that were like asking me to work for them. And then I asked if they had full-time or part-time opportunities available. And then once I started having a lot of conversations, I realized like, okay, I can take on some of these places as clients, and I can just work for myself and just see what happens. And so once I kind of got that solidified, that I knew that people would be able to compensate me and I could
heavy on the compensation
and physically leave, then I knew it was time. And it all just kind of fell into place because I was like actively working on it. And then the opportunities just started coming.
So it sounds like you were working a 9 to 5 and then working a 5 to 9.
Absolutely.
How did you balance that? So to all my girl bosses out there who has a full-time job, it's stressful. I'm getting emails at 11 o'clock.
Yeah.
Boss is not respecting boundaries, as we both know they don't.
Us as our own bosses, we do not respect our own boundaries sometimes.
Touché.
But that's okay.
What advice do you give girls who are trying to make that leap, or they're trying to come up with some type of plan to exit their 9 to 5? What tips or advice would you give them?
I would say that it is so worth your time to explore what you want to do that makes you feel good about your life on a daily basis. Like, that's pretty much the best way to invest your time that you ever could. Like, I love Bravo and Real Housewives, and I love watching them every night, but I could shed off an hour of that at night to work on myself so that I have a happy life. Like, so it's really just mentally prioritizing, okay, if I spend this time at night working on myself, that's only going to help me grow as a person and find what's right for me and make my life a happy one. I would way rather do that than be miserable on a daily basis.
Which makes sense. So you've been on the screen, Atlanta Unplugged. You've done a great show, Talk Foodie with me on Star 94.
Yeah.
We're both on Fox 5.
Oh, yes.
How did you first get into even media? Did you have media training? Did you what did that process look like?
You know, it's so funny. Like, people have always said like media training. I'm like, I don't even know what that is. Like, is that portfolio school? Like, I don't know where to find that, but no, I did not have it. I pretty much, like, my entire life, any project I had in school was me doing what I do now. Like, was me talking about food, like making food, telling everybody about food, being obnoxious, of just like, I love food and this is what I do. And I studied dietetics in college too.
Really?
Yeah. So I have a degree in dietetics. I could have been
Your
a dietitian.
degree is in dietetics?
Yes.
Okay, looking at the last vegan Jamaican patty.
Oh, I know. Well, I mean, there are all types of diets and veganism is one of them. But so I actually studied the science of food, and it was so fun for me, and had to do food labs. I mean, Erica, you would have loved it. If you ever want to go back to school and get this degree, I'll go back with you. Let's
do it.
Because I would have even this food lab where it would be on Mondays, and it's a 3-hour food lab, and we would bake it would be themed. So one day would be cheese. And so we'd all have to make a different cheese dish, all 30 of us. And then we'd have to lay it out on the buffet, and we'd all have to taste some of the cheese dishes, and we'd have a rubric, and we'd have to categorize what was the texture like, what was the flavor like, and we'd have to learn all these words.
Which explains why you're so descriptive now with the way you describe food on the news and on your social media.
Exactly. So I would say that was one leg of my training, was actually getting a degree in dietetics and learning the nuances of food and the science behind food.
I love that.
And then the other part was just my natural gift of gab, I guess, and just being really talkative a lot. And so it kind of just came through on screen. But when I went to Atlanta Eats, within 3 months of working there, I was I want to be on camera. So how can I do that? And so
shoot your shot, bae. Shoot your shot.
It's been a lot of just vocalizing what I want to the people that can make decisions, and then working hard for them so they know that I'm reliable. And that's kind of how opportunities come forward.
Did you always have a voice? A lot of women, we don't get our voice until our late 20s, early 30s. Mm-hmm. Did you always have a voice, that you were always vocal about what you wanted? And how did you find it?
Well, I would say, looking back, it doesn't seem like I did as much as I do now, because I feel a lot more autonomy working for myself and a lot more responsibility for my life than I might have in my early 20s or before. But I did the best I could with my voice at the stages of life that I went through.
For sure.
So I do think I still distinctly remember meeting with the vice president of Atlanta Eats and being hey there, we're going to sit down and have a meeting. And just so you know, my goal is to be the host of this show. So I didn't say it like that. I actually was just hi, can I host a segment, and I would love to do this or whatever. So it's just, I knew if I had an opportunity that I had to take it. If it's dangling in front of you, don't wait. Take it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, so speaking of opportunities, you have your show that's coming out, The Foodie Road Trip.
Yes.
How exciting is that?
I mean, first of all, so exciting because you're a part of it.
Why, thank you.
I'm so incredibly excited to see you on screen.
It was such a match made ahead.
Yeah.
So I was just thankful to be invited.
Of course.
But it was a great time.
Yeah.
What was that process like? Did you just pitch a show and then they accepted it and then that was it? Or
yeah, I mean, that's the other thing, like with using your voice and telling people what you want. Nobody's going to know what you want unless you tell them. Like you might think, I'm showing my hard work in all of these ways. They're definitely going to promote me or they're definitely going to see me for this role. But unless you tell people exactly what you want, you're not going to get what you want.
Speak up.
Yeah.
Speak up.
Speak up.
This is the girl who wants promotion. This is the girl
Yes.
who needs a raise. Use your voice and speak up. This is your sign.
Yes, this is your sign. Take that right now. You can even pause the podcast, write that email, get that meeting, and then come back and listen to the rest because it's so good. But so with Foodie Road Trip, it definitely was not an easy process, but it's one of those things where I knew this opportunity just does not come lightly. So I had met this guy who's amazing, and I'm going to keep it vague until we really release the show later this summer. But I met this amazing producer a few years before I got started on this, and we were having lunch, and he was just like, well, if these are your goals, why aren't you making a pilot? Like, why aren't you making your own show? Why are you waiting for somebody to
put
come to you?
Put a little fire on that tushy.
Yeah, and I was like, you're right, okay. And I'm going to be honest with you, like to fund my own pilot, I was like,
wait, you had to pay out of pocket?
Oh, I did. And it was a huge decision for me because at the time I had just taken myself to Thailand. I had just gotten myself a yoga certification.
We were in Thailand at the same time.
Yes, we were in Thailand at the same time, stayed at the same beautiful hotel. But I was like, oh gosh, like this is probably not the time to spend money. But then I was like, this is not like this is my life and these are the things I want to invest on. And, you say yes when an opportunity comes because if you start saying no to things that are right for you, they're not going to keep coming.
They're not.
So I said, you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to just make it happen. I'm going to be fine. If I need to start teaching yoga with my full-time job, I will. I will make it work.
So
it's going to be fine.
hustle for your dream.
I will 100% hustle for my dream because it is so worth it. So, yeah, I funded the pilot and we worked on that and it was so cool. What a great learning experience. And then the pilot has evolved over the years and I've taken so many meetings with national brands and local stations and like so many different ways of seeing the show. But now the second that I kind of like mentally opened up and just said, whatever is supposed to happen is going to happen. As long as I'm working hard on this and I'm visualizing this for myself, then it can happen. That's when the right opportunity came
with
my
no
way.
expectations.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I tell people all the time.
Yeah.
If you give 100% with no expectations, what's meant to be is to be, but at least you can leave knowing I gave 1,000%.
Yes. I mean, we're always aligned mentally.
Oh, for sure.
Because I think it totally starts with your mindset to be a strong woman and to be a strong woman business owner is you having that in your head because there's so many ways, like just the social norms of the world like can already knock you down of like, oh, you're not doing this right now. Oh, you're not, whatever corporate speak is. I really don't know what that is. For sure. You probably don't.
We left it. But I feel like sometimes when you look at other people, because I mean, going up the corporate ladder, I'm not going to say it's difficult, but it's kind of like a path. You know what I mean? If you go from a coordinator, you're going to go to, a manager and it's already written.
Right.
And you have a manual. You know what I mean? This is what people have done before you. This is what people have done after you. This is the path you take. Versus being an entrepreneurship, especially when the world of social media, there's no, roadmap. I always find it so funny how people are like, you need 10 years of social media experience.
Oh my gosh.
I'm like, iPhone did not drop until 2007.
Right. That's kind of impossible, honey.
Exactly.
They didn't even have Facebook ads until I don't know how, 7 years ago, maybe.
If that. So it's just it's so interesting because there's really no roadmap than what we did. But I just know for me, when I first decided to launch my blog, I just was I was so nervous because when you don't know what you're doing, but you want to do it, it's very hard to come up with a 30-second pitch. You know what I mean?
And you have to be vulnerable too.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
And me, I'm super tough. I'm so literally I I will never forget this when I was like, I don't know if I'm going to do Eating with Erica. And I went on this like other food blogger and he was like award winning or whatever. And I went to his blog and there was so many run on sentences.
Oh,
and I was like, if he can do it, I totally can do it.
Yes.
That night I went to GoDaddy.com. I secured my domain and we were ready to rock and roll. But it's just like, I feel like when you don't have a path or it's something new, you have to create your own way.
Absolutely. And not to be afraid of creating your own way too.
Especially because you launched the actual social media company. So how has you working at a corporate position affected or helped your entrepreneurship?
Oh my gosh. Wonderful question. Just giving you props for that one.
Thank you. I'm doing my best over here.
I don't think that I could be at a point to run my own business successfully and be in this phase of mind and life and everything without the positions that I held before.
Really?
For sure. Like when I was at Atlanta Eats, the things that I learned, I mean, first of all, I had to learn a lot about production. I didn't know any of the like crew speak.
So you were green-eyed and bushy-tailed.
Oh yes. But I was soaking it all in. I'm just like, trying to learn everything and trying to like not act like I had so many questions, but just listening a lot. And so I learned a lot about production and a lot about relationships at Atlanta Eats.
Oh, for sure.
Because I had to have so many clients. And they were clients that I was like selling to. So I had to know how to uphold things, have good communication with clients, all of that. And then at Taste of Atlanta, oh my gosh, I learned how to be like so detail oriented that it would drive me nuts. Like I didn't sleep the first year I worked at Taste of Atlanta.
God.
Yeah, it was probably not great. But also very great learning experience that I just was like thinking above and beyond of what needed to get done and what were kind of backup plans if something didn't work, because when it is like a 3-day food festival, there's just so many layers to things. There's so many obstacles. And when there's like 40,000 people, it's just, there's a lot going on.
So much.
And when you're the only person in charge of the Instagram and the Facebook and all of the things, it's just, you have to have plans in order at all times. You have to have things written and you have to have it ready to go. So I think working for Taste of Atlanta allowed me to think deeper and be prepared to take on bigger projects like Foodie Road Trip and, contracts and things like that I would not have known just like being myself,
which I
loving
love.
Food,
Which is nice because I think a lot of people right now, we're in an era where everybody's like, quit your job and go start your own business. But I say it all the time, my previous positions, I wouldn't be the entrepreneur I am if I didn't take advantage of the social media classes.
Absolutely.
If I didn't take advantage of, learning the back end, I would have been a subpar entrepreneur.
Yeah. Oh, I think that's a huge point too, is like, you have to be on a continual path of learning. Like I'm not like all because I do what I want to do right now doesn't mean that I'm just like done. Like
for sure.
I have to keep doing leadership things. I have to keep doing like some sort of communal experiences. I mean, doing things with you are always great, but like you just always have to stay involved with the community and in leadership and with like classes and things, because you got to keep your brain working and firing on all cylinders. I'm trying to use as much corporate speak as possible right now. You're doing
great, sweetie. You're doing great,
Yes.
sweetie. So what are 3 tips if I was a woman like Skye, I love what you're doing, I would love to follow on your path.
Yeah.
What are 3 tips you would give me?
Ooh, that's also great. Because I just wrote about this too, because like I was always looking for like a how-to to get where I wanted to be.
There's no roadmap for what we were doing because we're the first to do it. Like, I mean, there's not, I remember this is like 8 years ago when I first started my food blog.
Yeah.
I was like, it's going to be a food directory. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because a blog, when you really... 8 years ago when you thought about blog, it was like, Dear Daria.
Yeah.
Dear Diary, I went to school today and I hate everybody. It wasn't really like, it wasn't really a thing. You know what I mean? It was only like telling about my like dark, deepest secrets. It was like an online diary, basically
100%.
what a blog was.
Yeah.
It wasn't really a resource. It was just a peek into someone's life and what they were doing.
Right.
So I find it very interesting how the world has kind of like revolved now, and the word influencer has been created more so. And I feel like influencers are trusted right now a little bit more than main media.
I agree. Well, I think it's more they're incorporated into the mix more than they would have a few years ago. Like things have changed so quickly, and because you were on the cusp of like getting in on the food blogging scene, like you've seen the progression of everything.
Oh, God,
because
yes.
like, I mean,
Things are
when we
very
first
different.
met like 7 years ago, people were not willing to pay other people to come eat their food and stuff. Like, it was not that way.
They didn't even like us.
No.
They were like, no, like you, because I felt like it was something when you first start.
Yeah.
They really didn't know what it was. Like, what the heck is Instagram? Why the heck do we need Facebook?
Yeah.
Like, are you with Eater? Are you with,
Right.
were you with the major publication or whatever? So
They were resisting anything new.
and now
Yeah.
I feel like it's just like they're very welcoming. So it's funny to see how in 7 years this could change.
Oh, yeah.
So what
So the
advice
how-to,
would you
yeah.
give? The 3 tips you would give someone trying to follow in your footsteps.
Okay, so number one, I would say to keep learning. So start taking things outside of your outside job, like whether it's, things like I've done like a yoga certification, which was on my bucket list to do, or being involved in like some sort of group or community, or just saying yes to opportunities that you're given outside of work that you'd normally just be like, ugh, I just want to like put on sweatpants and like drink wine or whatever. You can still do that, but like also incorporate some amount of learning in your outside of work life.
Love that.
And then, so that's number one, which I feel like could be like 4 things, but like, that's fine. I'll keep it as 1. Number 2, I would say to make sure that you're like taking care of yourself at the same time. And
Self-care is a must.
yes, exactly. Because the more that you're self-aware and taking care of yourself, the more that you know what's right for you. And
Better decisions.
yes, exactly. Like if a corporate path is the path for you, amazing. That's great. But you need to be in your best mindset to make that decision if you want to
sure.
stay in it. So that would be number 2. And number 3 would be just to have good relationships with people.
Oh my God.
And that probably should have been my number 1, but I'm glad that I still remembered it to like incorporate.
For
But
sure.
good relationships will get you everywhere in life. And not like a suck up, fakey relationship.
No, like genuine,
Genuinely,
authentic.
yeah.
My dad always says, like, literally just test and see how people feel about people and just bring up somebody's name and see
Yes.
their reaction when you bring it up.
Yes.
And sometimes I'll be like, hey, Scott, you should be like, ah. Or,
Right.
I'll be like, ah. You know what I mean? But
Good
it's
to know. I need to watch my. No, we're good.
But it's like,
yeah.
especially because I feel like a lot of people feel like Atlanta's bigger than what it is. And it's
Yeah.
really not, especially when you start thinking
Yes.
about like the different niches. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So I always say, like, be a woman of your word. Do what you say you're supposed to do. You know
Absolutely.
what I mean? Under promise, over deliver. And I feel like a lot of people have like kind of taken this Hollywood approach, like I've arrived. And that's not, you always have to stay humble and you have to hustle and you want to be around people who are reliable. Like I know when I invited you today,
Yes.
there was no doubt in my mind you're going to be
Right.
here and you're going to be on time and you're going
Yeah.
to do it. You know what I mean? And
Yes.
there's lots of times when you network with certain people, you're like, I don't really know. And then they let you down. So the next time someone calls and asks me like, what do you
Right.
know about Carol? It's like, don't, she's not going to be there.
Absolutely. It's always a small world, but it's also like having good relationships is going to make you enjoy your life more too. Like the fact that this is a Monday and I get to hang out with you. And that's like my job. I was literally thinking about that driving over here. I was like, I don't have to check in with anybody. Like, and
We don't have to lie and say it's a doctor's appointment on lunch break or
Yes.
say we've been exposed to COVID.
Right.
To go do, like, it's just
How
crazy.
cool is that?
Because we have said it
Yeah.
was doctor's appointment. We've had to
Yeah.
do to
Oh.
leave the office.
Absolutely.
The
Like to
amount
take
of stress,
interviews like in the
amount of
hallway.
stress.
Yeah. The
Wow.
stress. I know, exactly. So it's just like
so much.
your relationships get you far in life. Your relationships are what makes you happy as you're going through life. And it's just you want the word on the street about you to be a good one and not to be that you don't show up places and that you're rude or anything like that. Because
Uncooperative.
Yeah.
Because the streets talk.
Yes, you do not want that happening. And, that actually made me think about when like 5 or 6 years ago, you invited me to be on a panel. And
At Einstein's.
yes, and my email didn't come through with the time. So I got there an hour late, but the panel hadn't started yet. And you were like texting me and you're like, girl, where are you? And I was like, I'm coming, but like I didn't think I had to be there until like 12. And then I got there and I was just like so embarrassed because I'm never
You were like beat red. I'm like,
I was like, Erica, I promise this is was not me. And so I thank you for giving me another chance in that, because I love you too. And like, you know, things like that are not a good look, and don't do it if you can't help it, you know.
But I knew it was a mix up because I'd already known you. But I'm like, you know,
Thanks.
and it's also how you handle situations. Like literally, I feel like a lot of people, grace will take you further than any other. Like just being gracious and being appreciative for opportunities. And I feel like I don't expect things. I have no expectation. Whenever I do any type of interview, whenever I have anything, there's no expectation. What meant for me is for me, and what's not meant for me will miss me. And that's just how I live my life.
That's really, really great and special. And that like hits me in a real place there. It really does. Because it's just like, you have to believe in that. And then you attract things. You also don't want to come out, like your energy level is really important. I know that this like might be a little bit, you know, different kind of conversation for some people. But if you're putting out energy that's like, I'm going to be okay, like what you were just saying about what's meant for me will happen, versus I need this, like that kind of desperate energy, that will repel things from you. So you have to be calm, cool, collected, and confident to attract what's right for you.
At all times.
Yeah.
So we're dining in Atlanta. What are 5 restaurants we need to visit?
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, first of all, like if anybody's not from Atlanta listening to this podcast, you need to come to Atlanta and eat, because you cannot go wrong. Every restaurant in Atlanta is so freaking good.
It's so good.
And I change my mind about this like on a daily basis. It just depends what I'm in the mood for.
But today, just 5 random restaurants.
Just random. Okay, so like honestly, I am normally around where I live, like in the Piedmont Heights, like Linridge area. So I'm normally Taqueria del Sol, Veroni Napoli, Grana, Little Ray, Grindhouse. Like that area is just my jam. Like over there, it's so good.
Okay, so we have. What was the first one?
Taqueria del Sol.
I love the enchiladas with the green sauce with the white queso.
And just like queso in general, just so good.
Number 2?
Number 2, I'll say Grana.
I love La Grana though.
Yeah, and like that rooftop is spectacular. It's just cool in there. I love it. They have this wine that I get that I shouldn't get every time because I buy a couple bottles and it's a little pricey, but I love it.
Self-care.
Yeah.
Number 3.
Number 3,
Little Ray.
I'll say Little Ray, sure.
Fort Fry gets it right every time.
Yeah. 4, Veroni Napoli.
I love the pizza.
I mean,
it's so good.
They've just been my favorite like since I lived in Atlanta after college. Really? Yeah, Luca, the owner, is like the coolest, nicest, most genuine guy. He reminds me of Italy when I go in there. And I haven't been to Italy, but I'm going next summer. But like, it makes me feel like I'm out of town.
And then number 5?
I'll say Grindhouse because
the burgers.
The burgers are fantastic. It's like great patio vibes too. And I love the owner, Alex, too. And he went to Georgia, so I support.
Dogs.
Yeah, go dogs. Yeah.
Wow. Skye, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Erica. This was so fun.
It was a fun job.
Yeah.
And thank you guys for joining me. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, own your seat.